In the 90s, when I first got into Star Trek, I had no idea that it would be something I was into for the rest of my life. I had no idea what shows were coming out. I found out Deep Space Nine existed because it was advertised during TNG, and that was randomly on a video cassette that my mum finally recorded because it was on at 11 o'clock at night here. And I had no idea these shows were coming. I had no idea the Voyager was coming. You might have seen some things in TV Week. You might have seen some action figures. TNG itself, I found out by seeing an action figure on the shelf. I've told the story many times. Go watch it. But we had no idea, and I don't know whether maybe America reported on it more or whether Australia just didn't have as much, or because I was a kid I didn't see it. But there was certainly, in my world as a child getting into Star Trek, there was no internet, there was no discussing or discourse between fans. And from what I've read, it was mainly through writing into newspapers or in fan clubs that they really had any sort of discourse about TNG, about Deep Space Nine, about Voyager. It was something that they really just didn't, well, I didn't see it. And what we have now in this age of amazing technology is the complete opposite of that, where everyone has an opinion and everyone has a feeling and everyone wants to discuss and talk about these shows, whether they hate them, whether they love them, to the point where people will talk about a show like they hate it before they've seen it. They will just get a little snippet, an actor, a character choice, the ship design, and they just won't like it. And it drives me insane because we didn't have that option before. How did TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise get an audience without that crazy discourse around it? And the video is about what we want as Star Trek fans, what we need as Star Trek fans, and how the internet has sort of influenced that, not in a good way. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into the video. So what we want. This is, fans at the moment want everything. We want Star Trek Legacy. We want Star Trek Prodigy Season 3. We want Star Trek anything, Lower Decks Season 6. And what I find interesting about this is comparing it to the 90s and the early 2000s is we didn't get a say in what we were given. We were given a product and we decided whether we liked it or not. And it was a much more reasonable time. Whereas now you see a lot of discourse around Starfleet Academy being set during the after Discovery Season 5, with Discovery characters turning up. We get these people go, why isn't Star Trek Legacy a thing, even though the show is a spin-off of Star Trek Picard and would be prohibitively expensive and also have no imagination in it. In this era, the main reason that people have a strong sense of we want is because they already got what they want after Discovery Season 2, which was a Pike Spock #1 series, Strange New Worlds. People took well to Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine and Ethan Peck playing these characters. They wanted to see them in a series. They'd love to see them in Strange New Worlds. I don't know why they didn't go back to Pike earlier, to be honest. But they nagged for it, and that's what they got. And so now, whenever we get a cancellation or a new series or an end of another series, the fans are just like, we want this, we want this, we want this. Now, it clashes. So for me, I understand that Paramount has a product that they need to keep making stuff on. They don't have unlimited funds. They have to be very careful with what they do. We get things like Section 31, where it was very successful in terms of streaming hours, but not in critical acclaim. And Paramount is just looking for money. corporations' money. It's not like the TNG days where we had Gene Roddenberry there, or we had Rick Berman, who was his successor, sort of taking over, and there's still been that artistic drive to create something new and interesting. What we have now is people who are aware that this is a huge franchise with a lot of popularity. They want to do something new, they want to do something different, but at the same time they have to adhere to this nostalgic older group who keep complaining about what they want on the internet. And as fun as that is, I imagine it drives them completely insane. So if you have a choice between a Star Trek legacy where you have a lot of old characters, a lot of stuff set up from the TNG era, 7 characters already installed, this family legacy, the Nepo Prize is what I call it, there's nothing really to tell in it. There's no artistic sort of license. You're sort of just forced to go on this narrow band of whatever you can pull from that era. Whereas doing things like Discovery and setting it in the 32nd century allows them a little bit of freedom with the concept. Doing something like Strange New Worlds, which is telling a historical story in a new and fun way. And they're still doing amazingly different things in Strange New Worlds. But they've every instance of these new Star Trek shows, barring Lower Decks, has really tried, actually no, Lower Decks as well, has really tried to do something new with the franchise, has really tried to sort of go, okay, what if we did this? What if we did that? Now, if this was the 90s, I'm sure people would complain, but it wouldn't be as vocal. Whereas now I can flip through X, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit, and there's a 1,000,001 complaints about any decision that is made. If it's not an actor, it's a ship. If it's not a series, it's the fact that another series got cancelled. There's a 1,000,001 complaints about it. And it really is just irritating at this point. Strange New Worlds has a lot of praise on it because it's a safe series. It has the Enterprise, it has characters we know and care about, it tries something new while keeping classic, and it's essentially what we wanted from seeing Pike and Una and Spock in Discovery Season 2. The characters, especially Anson Mount, very much gave this hopeful, positive captain. And we got that. And as fans, I think that sort of made us think that we have more power than we do. Because ultimately, these franchises, they never used to ask for our permission what they put out. When TNG was being made, no one was asking for TNG to be made. There was movies for the original actors, but they made it anyway because A, money, and B, artistically, you could do more now. You could do different things. Deep Space Nine was the same. Deep Space Nine was a reaction to TNG's formula in that they wanted to try something new. Voyager was let's keep it safe. And Enterprise was a mix. But Strange New Worlds is a direct reaction of fan engagement. And I think giving fans too much strength really makes it an issue. We have conflicts over Picard Season 3 being amazing or being terrible. The fact that they abandoned the entire cast from Season 1 and 2 and just went with the TNG cast for Season 3. We have Starfleet Academy having a whole new young class, some pretty big name actors as well. But no one actually asked for it, although it's been cooking in the background, an idea of Starfleet Academy since Star Trek V, which was in the late 80s. So it's not a new concept, but it's just no one really wanted it. In terms of Prodigy, people are expecting, we're expecting some sort of Season 3. We never got a Season 3 because the show's very niche. It became very niche. First half of Season 1 introduced elements of the Star Trek universe, whereas the end and Season 2 were just, you had to know your shit about Star Trek, or at least be very curious about it. Lower Decks was the same. Once you make the same jokes about the same things, there's a point where the original idea for the series stops. And I think that is the problem with a lot of these shows, is I think conceptually they run out of ideas and they stop, which isn't a bad thing, because believe me, there are certain points in TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager and Enterprise where they really just should have threw the idea out. And what we have now is shorter seasons with which doesn't make sense in a lot of ways. Like Strange New Worlds probably needs a few more episodes. Discovery, the 10 episodes seem to work really, really well. And that fan backlash, that constant fan in the background, like we're trying to listen to the fans, we constantly have fans trying to tell these producers the shit what they want, calling them all kinds of names under the sun when all they're doing is a job and trying to make things. Telling writers they're terrible just because they don't like the episode. Art is objective and subjective. It's some people like it, some people don't. You can't turn around to someone and go, I don't like this piece of art, and they say they do, and then you go, well, you shouldn't. Because art is in the eye of the beholder, and that still applies to any form of media. And it is really frustrating as a Star Trek fan because ultimately you don't have the control or final say. And I think that's what really pisses off a lot of the older fans. And mainly, I think, because Strange New Worlds was greenlit from fans' support. So now they think, oh, I have some sort of control in what happens and what doesn't. And to be fair, in Star Trek before that had happened, with the original series getting renewed, with letter campaigns to save Enterprise, to save other, we've always sort of pushed for that. Whereas now there's the internet, and you can hound and harass writers and producers, and you can put your opinion out there, and you can hear news before anyone else has heard news. You get spoilers, leaks, everything like that. And the fans have just felt like, I think in regards to the whole internet, in everything in general, Star Wars, Doctor Who, anything entertainment-wise, fans feel like they have all the power in the world. And ultimately they don't, because the company has to balance between the old fans they want to keep around and the new fans they have to create to keep the franchise going. And art being subjective means that the more of something we have. So say, for example, I have all of this Star Trek. Some people like this Star Trek better, Next Gen. Some people like Voyager better. Some like Deep Space Nine better. Not everyone is going to like it. And it's the same with this era of Star Trek. Not everyone liked Star Trek Picard. Not everyone liked Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Prodigy, blah, 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 blah. So we're always going to get discourse. And with the more art, the more discourse. And how do we solve a problem like fans wanting or feeling they have control? I think it's important to remind ourselves that we don't have control. This is a product and art created by people, and if we don't like it, that's fine. If we do like it, that's fine. Paramount will make decisions based on money. The producers will make decisions based on money and what they feel is the best next step, which doesn't necessarily align with what you want to do or what I want to do. I don't want to see Star Trek Legacy. I'm interested in Starfleet Academy. But I know that that's not perfect. I think Discovery should have gone on for longer. I think Lower Decks probably could have got better if they sort of pushed it a bit more. Tons of stuff. But I also accept that franchises move, do different things. I'm not going to turn around and judge Starfleet Academy until I get to Starfleet Academy. Do I think it's a dodgy idea? I'm not sure. Haven't seen it. Don't know. Don't know how the actor's going to be. Don't know what the storyline is. Makes no sense. Whereas when I had issues with Star Trek Picard Season 3, I'd seen TNG, I'd seen the first 2 seasons of Picard, and my feelings about it were very, very strong. Whereas the control, I've never felt control over Star Trek. Star Trek isn't about control. It's about creating a fun adventure story that takes me on an adventure every week for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And where do us as fans sit in this? We can fight for what we want in Star Trek, but don't get angry when we don't get it, because ultimately we're not in charge. Giving up the control is the hardest thing, I think, for Star Trek fans at this time. And I think that's because we're all, a good chunk of us are getting old, a little bit set in our ways, and a little bit sitting in our own nostalgia. What do you think? What do you think do you think the fans feel like they have too much control, or do you feel like the producers aren't listening to the fans enough, and they should listen more, even though that's not how you do art. You don't do art for appreciation from a million billion people. You do your art and hope that people like it. I have been Trek Trav. This has been a Trek Trav random thought. I will see you next time.